bank and they're really banking for a big, and they can't lose that much money. It's a really good trip.
Well, from what I'm hearing, your buddy, 46 is thinking about
Okay.
legalized.
Yeah. Federal.
Legalization.
Did you come Form B?
That's why you gotta get
You
out.
trying to
of
do Form B?
You go into the American ones, like
Huh?
Truly.
It was sour.
Oh God, the hump's starting again.
I just cooked it.
Those ones.
We tried to figure it out earlier, we can figure it out.
Benefit from legalization. These are turned. They usually
Paul,
face the
how are
other
you?
way. Maybe that's why we don't hear the buzz. Barbara, how you doing? Yeah.
We tried to troubleshoot this earlier, we couldn't figure it out. Could be what?
Yeah. No. It is,
I don't want to hold the meeting up for it, so.
yeah. Cure. Hello, everybody. C-U-R.
Apologize.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
You good? You want
Yeah,
to
I'm ready.
give me a little- Good afternoon. This is the City of Northfield Budget Workshop meeting, February 11th of 2021. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 in the Press of Atlantic City on January 30th of this year. Pursuant to governor's orders, the social distancing requirements related to COVID-19 are being observed. There are limited seats for in-person attendance today by members of the public. For this reason, this meeting is also being presented simultaneously as a remote public meeting live streamed using Zoom conferencing service and in accordance with the governor's executive orders and the Open Public Meetings Act. Zoom meeting participants can dial in by telephone and listen to the proceedings, or they can access the meeting using a web browser and view and listen. Instructions on how members of the public could reserve one of the limited seats, as well as how they can access Zoom, have been made available on the municipal website and were published in the Press of Atlantic City. The full text of the public meeting notice has been posted at the entrance to the municipal building and includes Zoom instructions, information on where to find the meeting agenda and relevant documents, as well as instructions on how members of the public could submit comments in advance of tonight's meeting. For those participating via Zoom, all participants will be muted upon entry. Web browser participants will not be able to share their screen or see the camera view of anyone other than the host, which is the City of Northfield. Zoom participants wishing to exercise their right to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting should wait until the specific announcement is made to open the public comment period. At this time, one by one, any telephone users will be asked to identify themselves and will be unmuted to permit commentary. For web browser participants, comments or suggestions may be submitted via the chat function, but will not be acknowledged outside of the designated public comment portion of the meeting. Chat users must also provide his or her name and address for the record in order to be heard. Any written comments submitted in advance would be read aloud and addressed during the public comment portion of the meeting, and we did not receive any such comments today. May I have a flag salute led by Mayor Chow, please.
Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Roll call. Mr. Deweese?
Here.
Mrs. Madden? Mr. Notaro?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Utz?
Here.
Mr. Palestina?
Here.
And Mayor Chow.
Here.
Mr. President?
Thank you. I guess we've had our first meeting, and I don't know if anybody had any time to go through the numbers over the past week since the last workshop, but I did take a look at some of them, and I'd like to just get right into it. Does anybody have anything to bring up, any input regarding the last workshop and going into this one? Any points of interest or anything you'd like to mention?
President, we're going to talk about the police promotions and the emergency management person.
Yes, yeah, the main topics, I believe, are that, and the crossing guards. I think we need to revisit that since we have 2 weeks till our next meeting, and the school's going to be starting their budget meetings, I think, in March. I don't know, they haven't had any yet that I'm aware of. That said, let's discuss the police department addition and promotion. Did they provide us with any of the?
I thought it was sent to you, Council President, from Chief Newman.
No.
All right, let me go to my office and we'll have to get that printed up then. All right.
He did not send me anything.
I thought he did, I'm sorry.
Well, the question that I have, while we're waiting for that, is the two promotions. Can we move forward with the promotions without the new highway patrol?
Well, I mean, as chief isn't here, I requested some support so that we can at least figure out whether we need to do those additions in this particular year. It's a tough, as you see from the numbers before us, it's a significant increase that I don't know that we can go into at this point, especially coming off of last year. We were fortunate enough during the pandemic that we made it through last year without, not as bad as it could have been. So we're still in the middle of a pandemic and we don't know where we're headed. Yes, Councilwoman Madden? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true too. And again, as I said, it's a lot of supervisors per patrolman. Again, I don't want to belabor that point since we don't have anybody here to present. But I guess the mayor can maybe speak to it when he comes back with the paperwork. Maybe there's something compelling in there. Well, those are all the items that I had requested that would give us the ability to analyze that. With regard to the crossing guards, it's an additional 147,000, and I think you said, Dawn, we just spoke, it could be as much as 168,000 once we add in taxes, benefits.
Correct.
Just the additional cost.
Correct.
I don't know that we can, again, I don't know that we can afford that beyond this school year. So my suggestion is we take that out starting in September, and we'll let the school know, and they can start to arrange they have time right now to work with us, work to figure it out. At this point, though, in order to do our jobs for the taxpayers, I think we need to
What does that
cut as much
do?
as we can out of our budget.
What does it do to, I think that suggestion I made last week about going back to normal staffing levels for September through December, what is the decrease in that 149,000 if we subtract that out?
I think it's like half.
We would probably take about $70,000 out of that.
It's
I
almost
think
a
that's
penny.
I think that has to be done.
What if you go in the morning and then the afternoon only, when you run it at the beginning, and get away with the other two shifts?
Right, I was just suggesting just to return to the way it was pre-pandemic with the morning and the AM and PM shifts, that we would cover what we traditionally covered and let them work within that framework.
That's the whole 168,000, right?
That's the whole 145 if you did it that
Well,
way.
no, we have to cover, we're covering till June. So that's why it's half of it. We did commit to cover it through June, through this school year. It would be for the commencement of the next school year in September. So that's why it would be approximately half.
Yeah, and we can't stop it at this point for this part of the school year. That would be irresponsible.
Right.
All right, okay. Okay, I mean, is there anyone that thinks we need to leave that in?
I
Or are
think
we
the
in
school-
agreement?
I honestly think the school's going to be back in session normally in September.
Well, that's certainly a possibility. Yeah, that's certainly a
Yeah,
possibility.
I think we
I
have
mean,
bigger
we-
issues if, that doesn't happen.
What I remember was that if we would notify them in advance, with month's notice, we would be what they would need.
Right.
Talk to the president, the superintendent.
Well, we don't want to leave them out in the cold. So I mean, at least, not we, I won't speak for the rest of council, certainly. I wouldn't put them in a position to say, okay, you have 30 days at this point. I would, my position is, we'll take it through the end of the school year, and they have from now till September to figure out a alternative to what we have right now. And I mean, and that's, again, that's up to everyone's vote, obviously.
Mr. President, just one comment.
Yes.
We want to be careful that we don't just say that we're going to eliminate the middle shift, because as it stands now, the morning and the afternoon shifts are longer than 1 hour. So we need to make it clear that it's an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon, if that's your intention.
I think we're covering the rest of the year.
Well,
This
going,
school year.
and in September, we'll go back to
The normal
what the
schedule.
schedule was in 2019,
Right, the normal schedule.
the beginning in September of 19. That was what that's what I was saying. Thank you for clarification, Mary.
$168,000 added that we talked about was for the entire year. From January to December, it was funded, and now you want to take out from September to December. So I will go through and make sure those hours are removed. Mhm.
Well, and why is there the extra time in the beginning? Does anyone know why there is the extra time in the beginning of the day and the end of the day?
Because there's two separate start times, one at 8, one at 9. So we have to go.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I apologize. That's right.
It's still the same schedule, right?
All right. Okay, so is everyone agreeable to that? Is that what we'd like to go forward with?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, Dawn, thank you. Mayor, do you,
I don't know if there's a certain protocol, but Mary, she's got to talk to you.
So as I understand it, that Mayor Chow has something that he would like to distribute. And because we have not made that available to the public in advance of the meeting, the Zoom people can't see it.
right,
So Shannon is going to throw it out on the website really quickly so that the folks who are participating by Zoom will have the opportunity to see what's being handed out today.
oh, thank you. Okay,
Should we do emergency management while we're waiting?
yes. Emergency management, Tim, would you like to?
thing on. I remember how. Everybody hear me? Is that coming
on,
through
Tim?
there?
Is it on?
It's on, yes.
Okay.
Lights on. All right. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I've been the coordinator here for 7 years, plus or minus a year, and this is the first time I've addressed council. Previous years, it's kind of been status quo. I report into the mayor, and we've had our discussions on the budget, you know, in his office, and didn't see a need to be here. After last year, we hit some roadblocks last year as a city, and it was a wake-up call for us, basically. Between the pandemic, which we were woefully unprepared for, as well as Tropical Storm Isaias, which happened in August, there were some things that happened that showed that we have lack of coordination and lack of proper documentation that assists us in recovering funds from FEMA. As a result of that, basically what happened is we got called after everything else failed. And at that point, we're like trying to put the fires out after the fires, you know, going down the block, so to speak. What we need to do is improve our preparedness and resiliency to disasters and major events by integrating emergency management into their routine operations. Being the last call at the last minute puts us behind the 8 ball, but it also causes other consequences that we need to prevent. So in this budget, you're going to see a significant increase from what we've asked for in previous years. And the reason for that, you know, is to make us resilient and better prepared in the future. The goal of emergency management is to be self-sufficient for 72 hours following any major disaster. The reason for that is that if it is a major regional disaster, such as a tornado, a hurricane, major flooding, we're not the only municipality affected. And all the responses that you get, well, we'll just rely on the county for this, or we'll rely on the county for that. It's not going to be available. It's going to the life safety issues, wherever that may be, and that may not be Northfield. So by being self-sufficient for 72 hours, it gives us a heads up to get things done. And a lot of the things that are done during presidential declaration are recoverable from FEMA if that declaration occurs. So some of the things we're asking for is, number one, new vehicles. I've been the only coordinator with no deputy for 7 years. Nobody ever wanted to step up. We've tried going through the fire, police, public works. Nobody wanted to volunteer to be deputy. So it was me and myself for 7 years trying to make things work. Last year, we were lucky enough to have Eric Lead step up. He's now the deputy since September. And we both need vehicles to do the job that we need to do. And primarily, we're going to be involved, of course, in day-to-day, but going out after a disaster, documenting damage, documenting debris piles, documenting equipment that's in service during the emergency with photos, with documentation on the computer, so that we can submit what is known as a preliminary damage assessment to the county and the state within 48 hours, because that's when they want those numbers. And the sooner we get those numbers in and the more accurate those numbers are, the better chance there is of a presidential declaration. In addition to the vehicles would be radios for those vehicles so that we can manage major emergencies. If anybody's familiar with the 4-alarm fire we just had in Pleasantville, they're the kind of emergencies we're talking about that you need additional radios to take care of. You can't have all that equipment talking on one radio frequency. That's got to be spread across different frequencies, so you need different radios to handle things like that. Also, we recently had a move where we downstairs in our office where we moved our emergency operations center. We're in the process of moving our operations center between EMS and the back room downstairs. So what I'm asking for there is upgraded furniture for that area. It's modular furniture, so it can be moved around, but that cost is not going to be just for emergency management. Please understand that this is going to be set up so that although it is an emergency operations center during emergencies, when we don't have emergencies, it becomes a conference room, a training room, a place where we can have subcommittee meetings, departments can go down there and do training, excuse me. So it can be used by other personnel as well, and it gives us another place to go for things like that. If you're interested in the layout or the equipment, I believe Kathy has copies of submitted documentation from the vendor that provided that. And we want to put tools in the hands of fire, police, and EMS, such as light towers, generators, and tools to manage incidents known as the incident command system. So that pretty much sums up the request that I have in my budget in front of you. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Yeah.
I see you raised this year substantial as it was last year.
Absolutely, yes.
It wasn't just this year. I printed this out. This was from your proposal about the call volume history. And it goes from 2/16 to November, I think, of 2/20. The end of November, so that's not sure. But I noticed there's a very small differences in some years even lower, a very small difference in the amount of dispatchers and transports over the 4 years.
Hold on. Are you talking about emergency medical services?
We're looking at this sheet here for OEM. I think you just took the paperwork that Shannon just gave you.
Oh, is it on here?
It was a separate.
It's the back page of the budget,
At the budget
of the budget package.
packet that Mary emailed. There we are. A lot of papers today.
Jim, I have a question.
Sure.
Under justifications, the first footnote has incident command system is a federal requirement for obtaining grant funding. It's included. Is there some grant that you're proposing that you're going to apply for, or is this post-disaster?
It's both. We're always looking at grants, but even to get grant money following disaster, you have to be compliant with federal guidelines, and federal guidelines call for large incidents be managed with the incident command system. And it is part of our emergency operations plan that we follow the incident command system, but nobody has the tools to do it the best way possible.
So these 2 vehicles you're requesting, are they outfitted in any particular manner that makes them compliant with your needs or with flood water or any other?
Absolutely, yeah. The vehicles themselves, number one, have to be capable of pulling our trailer, which we have. Number two, they should be 4-wheel drive so that they can get around in the snow, in the water, go off-road if we need to go into Birch Grove Park, or if there's large debris that just we need to get through the streets. And as far as compliancy, there is what the federal government has been asking for, interoperability. So basically, if you have a major disaster, any agency that may come into this town, we need to be able to communicate with. So this vehicle is designed with the outfit so that it can become a mobile command post if necessary.
Communicate with any.
And communicate with any, it'll have tactical frequencies that are designed statewide. There's VHF tactical frequencies, UHF tactical frequencies that if we have somebody coming from Sussex County, we can go to those tactical frequencies and talk to them.
Do we have that capability at all now?
No.
So I know 9/11, that was a big thing.
Yes,
The departments were talking about.
correct.
Jim, we have one vehicle. What is the condition of that?
The condition is that it's 20 years old. There were just recently new tires. Mechanically, it's running pretty well. There's about 19,000 miles on it right now. So it is useful. It's currently not useful for our operation right now. Anything that gets stored in the back right now is getting like a black film over it because it's not really airtight. So some of the metal shavings or the dirt that builds up in there gets over whatever equipment's in the back. But if Public Works may need it, I'm sure it can work well for Public Works to give them another pickup truck.
Was this vehicle purchased brand new or was this a hand-me-down?
Well, I didn't purchase it.
No, but I'm saying when you came and took over, was it?
It was handed down to me. Yeah, it was the vehicle that was already here when I came on board as the coordinator. I wasn't involved in the purchasing of it or anything like that.
Tim,
Sure.
the radio installation, I assume that's for 2 vehicles?
Yes.
And is it can you, I see there's handhelds here as well, 2 handhelds. Is it, can you do with one or, you know, use the handheld as as the car radio, or can you do you need both? That's, I guess my question is.
Ideally, having both is the best thing.
Right.
If the ones, there's 2 mobiles requested for each vehicle.
Mhm.
So that you can talk on 2 different frequencies, talk to fire on one, EMS on the other. The portables, if you need to walk away from the vehicle, you still got to have a portable.
You still have the portable,
to
but the
communicate.
portable does the same job as the
Absolutely,
as
they'll have the
handheld.
same
Okay.
frequencies and
And-
everything, yes.
The lighting, so how many lights are we proposing to buy? And what's the price of those lights individually? Do you have?
The light tower that's listed there, a new light tower is $15,000. 2 of them is 30,000.
30,000?
That's something that came up after Tropical Storm Isaias. And that's when I got the call at the last minute at 10 o'clock at night, when we thought the fire department had lights, but they no longer did. And I got the call. We ended up renting them from United Rentals. But I think it would be a good idea to have at least 1, if not 2, available, not just for that specific scenario, but if we have any kind of a night operation, we're going to need lights.
And those lights were because the intersection power was out. I mean,
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Right.
And let me
yeah,
just
that's-
say
that's
that,
very dangerous.
let me just say this to council, that it was a rather rude awakening for me. 2:00 in the morning, I'm on the road with Tim, and I was shocked that we did hot, and I, being a member of the volunteer fire company, I thought we had tower lights. We didn't. And the intersections of Tilton and New Road and New Road and Mill Road, we had no lights at those intersections. And what made things even worse was that our police officers that were there trying to direct traffic had no lighting. I had to go out and get my own personal emergency lights and just give them hand flashes there. Even that was not adequate. So as I said, it was a rude awakening, and many of us, with all due respect, we're nice and we're sleeping in our beds at 2:00 in the morning and have no idea what's going on out there. And these guys are struggling trying to control traffic and direct traffic and address the issue. So as Tim pointed out, this was a rather rude awakening just with the lighting aspect in terms of trying to illuminate the area until the electric company could get back online here. And that's only one piece of equipment that we don't have anymore. And these emergencies, we never know, obviously, when they're going to happen. I mean, we had the Pleasantville a couple of nights ago. So this is something that can happen spontaneously, and we want to be prepared. And over the years that I've been the mayor and served with Tim, we have not budgeted anything adequately to address these situations. With that event that happened, these several events, we feel that we got to move forward now and be prepared at this time.
Actually, this is for Dawn.
Mhm.
So these are, for the most part, capital expenditures. They go on our, again, I'm new to this budgeting cycle.
The big number is, yes.
Pardon?
The big number is,
Yeah,
yes.
so it's a
And
durable good, it goes on the capital.
Right.
So and what do we build these up and then we roll out a bond?
correct.
And are we in
And
the process of building up to a bond now?
this would be our last year.
This would be our last year.
Our
So if
last
we were to
ordinance.
stagger the schedule of these 2 vehicles. If we were to buy one this year and one next year, one would be on this year's bond issue, and then the next one would be part of whatever comes next. Is that correct?
You could do it that way.
Does it make a difference?
Probably for 40,000, no.
Well, actually, each vehicle, by the time you're
Right.
equipping it, is more than that.
Right, but I did put something, we talked about this for the capital. I think, Mary, you included that in the, when we talk about it, we have a significant amount of money already put aside for this year to do more road drainage and sewer projects, but we still have a couple million there already that we haven't used. So we could take, that money out from the sewer projects that we were planning, or the road projects, and just allocate it to other things. Because the change for the request for this year was the 258,000, which we talked about last meeting, which was for the stadium seating and for Tim's requests. So we would just kind of shift things around a little bit and put it in this bond ordinance and then go out and do the funding. Yeah.
Tim, I had a question, and
Sure.
Paul alluded to it, with the vehicles, there's 2 vehicles 40,000 apiece, and then it says customization of each vehicle above 44,000. I guess I'm a little confused with that. Is it 44,000 to outfit the vehicle?
Let me take a look at that. I don't recall myself. Let me
It
look.
does say of each, but I assume the 44.
If I-
is above.
Yeah, let me just verify that. 'Cause
That's
I-
for,
Yeah.
Coordinator vehicle 40.
The
deputy
44,000
40.
is for both.
yeah,
So it's not for each. So it's 20.
No, it's
22,000
24
apiece.
each and 20 each. One is for like emergency lighting and radio installation.
Of each-
12,000
of
each.
Both vehicles then, not each
Is-
vehicle, but both vehicles.
That's both vehicles,
a
correct.
that's for a laptop mount, and a command console. 22,000
Where do you see laptop mount?
In the
on the
justifications.
description.
Oh, okay, yeah, there's a lot of, there's more
There's a
than
lot
just the
more, there's
laptop
more than
mount.
that, yeah. Okay.
But it's the entire lighting package, it's the radio installation,
So,
and
then,
also a command console that goes in the back that basically is a mobile office. It will
Okay.
have a whiteboard, it will have, radio consoles back there, it will have
Mhm.
like a file cabinet where we can keep paperwork and forms.
Back to the lighting.
and then, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead,
David.
Brian. Go ahead, you
Then there's
first.
the communications equipment as well, which is the same. So almost 44,000. And that's.
Well,
for
there's the installation of it, but you got to purchase the radios for them to install it. And the radios themselves are expensive because of the vendor that we're dealing with at the county. It's kind of like a sole source. You can only go to this one vendor. I mean, you can buy radios cheaper at other vendors, but then the county doesn't support it on the county system.
Is it possible to use a handheld at all times? In the car and out of the car and,
It
sitting
makes it
next
more
to-
difficult. You can have interference because the antenna is on the inside of the vehicle versus the outside of the
Okay.
vehicle. So it may not be as clear. You may not reach
Can they
as
be,
far.
can they be plugged into an antenna do they make a certain type of handheld that you plug in? No,
No.
you'd think they would, right? But they don't.
You would
They
think
want you
they
to-
would.
they want you
I
to
know
buy
they
the one
used
that's
to.
inside.
They're not as popular
Yeah.
anymore. So.
The handhelds aren't.
Correct, yeah.
I got a question, President.
Yes.
The P25 stuff that we bought, that's not capable of doing the tactical communication, although we just came in compliance with the law and spent almost $400,000 on radios to be compliant.
Yeah, they are capable of communicating with, basically, it's designed for Atlantic County. They can communicate with anybody at Atlantic County. And I don't know how the police or the fire department specifically has theirs programmed, but it's basically whatever frequencies you put in there. But they're limited to just the 800 megahertz frequency. They don't have any VHF capability. The radios that we're asking for are multi-band, so we can go to VHF or UHF as needed. Well, 800, not UHF. It's a different frequency band.
Councilman Perry, which radios were you speaking of? What department is?
Well, we just did the whole town.
Oh.
Vehicles, police
Yeah,
department.
everybody got new radios.
Everyone had to go to that,
Last year, right? Or
well, the past 2 years.
past 2 years? Okay. And you got those as well or
We
no?
got those as well, yeah. We got portables.
Where everybody could talk together after 9/11. and,
Right.
We were mandated to do it, had all these extra radios that still worked and we couldn't use them. And we had to go with that, I believe it was P25 setup.
Yeah, they're all P25 capable, and that was, we had this discussion with Mary about trying to find cheaper P25 radios, but because the county only contracts with this one vendor, they won't support any other vendor's equipment. So if we had an issue with a radio we bought somewhere else, it's up to us if there's a problem.
Never ends with these radios.
So what happens to the ones, so I imagine you got 2 of those, and are they around the same, the P25s, were they
Yeah,
in a
they-
similar cost as these?
They will still be used and they will be utilized with whatever responders are on the scene. There are portables that can be handed out during the incident to give to other responders.
If you have additional help?
Additional help, yeah. And I'm hoping, as far as emergency management is concerned, that in the next several years that we have a larger volunteer contingent. I'd like to establish a CERT team, which is a community emergency response team, which is made up of volunteers, getting students from the high school that can be involved in emergency response and disaster recovery.
And so with what you envision your new department to be, neighboring towns, are we going to be ahead of the curve, behind the curve, and
We'll
how
be
much?
ahead of the curve. Right now, the only community emergency response team is county-based, and they don't do much training at all. I'm working with Summers Point and Linwood. Number one, we're just getting a shelter agreement finally signed, and that'll be the start of it. That's an agreement between Linwood, Summers Point, Northfield, and Linwood Community Church. That will be a shelter for approximately 250 residents if needed.
Okay.
In addition to that, we're already talking, and once we get that started, then there'll be other shared services that we'll be able to utilize as along in the mainland community. And the CERT team would be one of them.
Does it make sense to, I mean, this is kind of wrapping all around this. We haven't had anything for years and years and years, and now we have a whole big chunk here, and now we're talking about shared services and reaching out to Linwood and Summers Point. Would it make sense to reach out to Linwood and Summers Point and try to put something together cooperatively as a shared service, opposed to us leading the way and us putting all the money out?
Well, the request right now that's in there is just to get us up to speed with where we should be for emergency management and response to disasters. I'm speaking of over and above that in working with Linwood and Summers Point.
So, and to those communities, are those, I mean, you're talking about getting us up to speed. Are they up to speed?
Summers Point has 3 or 4 vehicles and about, I would say, at least a dozen volunteers on their team. They're probably the most advanced. Linwood is probably in the same situation we are.
Does the federal government offer vehicles like old military vehicles that can be used to like maybe, I don't know if donation, but out of service, like Humvees or anything like that can be used as these types of vehicles?
They do, and I believe Summers Point has one. I have not really pursued that right now because we don't have a major flooding issue. But the Humvees and the large 6x, are usually used for going in the flood zones, which is not a big problem for the city of Northfield.
One question on the 5.5 kilowatt generators. It says 4 for state traffic signals. Is that 5,000? Is that for 4 generators?
Yes, they should be a little under 1,000 apiece.
And why is 5,000 in operating and 5,000 in capital?
That may have just been my mistake.
It's actually just in operating. It doesn't carry over. I added them.
But that's not in the 19,000 total. Is that correct?
If that's for state traffic signals, shouldn't the state bear some?
Yeah.
So
That's in the operating.
the city's obligation to power these units, even though
Let me explain that a little bit. Basically, the situation we had with the lighting and the traffic control after Tropical Storm Isaias was at state traffic intersections. The state was all over, because of Tropical Storm, they didn't have anything available to get down and fix the signals here. After talking to them after the fact, they advised that if we had generators, they would send an electrician to hook it up to make the traffic signals operating after a disaster. And would eliminate the need to put an officer out in the middle of the intersection in the dark.
Would they need to do that before a disaster happened?
No, it's the same thing we're using right now. We have 4 generators that were issued to us by Atlantic County for county intersections.
No,
And they were deployed that night.
The hookup for that, wouldn't they want to do this prior to,
Well, you can't leave the
anything?
generator out there.
No, the hookup for it, the
Yeah, the
electrical.
hookup's already set up.
It's already set up.
Yeah.
So they already
Yeah, because
outfitted.
they will come out and put generators on there if the generators aren't used elsewhere.
Right,
So
okay.
they already have it
So
set
they
up
have it
and
outfitted
established for
already.
that,
Okay,
yes.
gotcha.
These 15,000 per light towers, do they have their own power source?
It's a generator, yeah, on a trailer.
They have their own generator.
Correct, yep. It's all self.
That same generator can't be used to run something else.
It could be if it was in proximity. You couldn't use it as a generator in one place and a light somewhere else. If you needed a generator where you needed the light, it could be
Could
used.
it also run a traffic light?
Potentially, yes.
If we're getting generators for state traffic signals, do we need the light towers?
not for that specific scenario as we described, but if there's other incidents that happen at night and we need lighting, then we still need lights.
When have we had in the last 20 years incidents where we've needed light towers in the absence of traffic light?
In my personal experience, I know,
7 years you've been doing so.
yeah, I've been doing 7 years, so we have not had a specific need for that, no.
Tim?
There are other times though, in talking to Public Works and the police, that there could be times when we could use lights, such as National Night Out, you know, when it gets dark and cleaning up afterwards, deploying it for working on sewers, if they have to do something on the sewers at night to have lights, and the Christmas tree lighting when we set up lights for the pedestrians and stuff. So, you know, there's other uses other than emergencies that those light towers are beneficial.
What are did you look into the rental costs and maybe, you know, retaining a rental company instead of buying these, you know?
Well, we actually, I mean, to solve that issue, we did rent one, yes. And what happens with the rental is it's going to be first come, first serve.
Well, you know, maybe we could work something out with a rental company in the event, like, you know, retain them somehow on an annually basis. That way they have it ready for us. You know, we're first on the list.
Well,
I don't know if they
I
can do
haven't
that or not, but-
specifically looked into that, but
Yeah.
logistically, I find that would be very difficult. If, you know, whatever the retainer fee is, are they always going to hold one just in case Northfield calls? You know, and if we never call, are they going to want to continue doing retainers?
Yeah.
You know, because it's equipment they can
It's-
be giving
yeah,
out to other.
It's just a thought. I don't know what the logistics of it would be, but, you know, it would be something that, you know, maybe we could explore.
And in instances similar to, okay, we go all the way back to Sandy, so Northfield wasn't as dramatically hit as some of our neighboring towns. Are you then available as mutual aid to those other communities, or, I mean, is this?
Certainly, we could look into that possibility. Yeah, I mean, we should be working together, and if somebody needs something, provide it to them. Typically, if it's that bad, you know, our costs would be
We may have our
recovered
hands full
through.
here, but.
Well, the cost would be recovered through the FEMA declaration, if there is one.
Okay.
What is our, I guess, association with the county in terms of, do we have agreements with the county for lights for emergency equipment? Like how is,
No, there's no kind of agreement specific to lights that I'm aware of.
do they have light towers?
That I can't answer, whether they have them in emergency management or their Public Works or that I don't know. But as I was saying in the beginning, you know, we need to be self-sufficient. We can't rely on someone else having it, because if we need it and Linwood needs it and Summers Point needs it, someone's not getting it.
Mhm.
Anyone have any other questions?
Is there anything on this list that you don't need?
Good question.
The next question had a-
What can we get rid of?
Well, if there's anything that could go for one light tower this year and do a light tower next year. That'll save you
Well-
15,000.
I'm thinking-
I don't think you have, but you don't have, Tim, do you have 2 light towers or just one? Is
I
it
have-
15? Is this
It's
divided?
15,000 per light tower. I
Okay, so
believe
that
there's
puts-
30,000 in there, right?
I see. All right. Oh, okay. I'm looking at emergency lighting and radio. Okay, never mind.
And if we have,
I got you.
we have the one truck that you currently use, and then it says there's another retired police vehicle.
Yes.
I mean, can we cut it to one vehicle and re-outfit one of the other vehicles to,
Well,
like,
first off,
I mean, we haven't had, I know Mr. Leeds has stepped up to be the assistant, which we haven't had for years, and now we're bringing one this year, and now we're outfitting a vehicle for $80,000 for an assistant that we've never had before, prior to this year, which I appreciate. that we
Right,
have
and
an
we've been
assistant.
unprepared up to last year. Basically, the vehicle I have, we kind of talked about, is 20 years old. It doesn't really fit our needs anymore. It can be redeployed to the Public Works if necessary. The vehicle that's been given to Eric is a car, so it does not have four-wheel drive. It cannot pull the trailer. It cannot serve as a mobile command. So it kind of makes it difficult to do the job.
Tim, I want to just clarify the cost. Is it 62,000 or is it 80,000 for each vehicle outfitted?
Outfitted?
Yeah, you got 44,000. That's divided by 2, correct?
Yes.
It would be the
Then you
22.
have the communications equipment.
Well, yeah, yeah.
And that's 22,000.
I'm just saying that-
Yeah.
80,000
Yeah,
per
so-
vehicle.
Mhm.
So it'd be 62,000 each, yes.
Plus the,
Plus the communications.
plus the
Plus the
equipment.
Plus the
communication,
communication.
80,000, okay.
okay,
Tim, if council was to purchase 2 of the light towers, where would they be stored?
Well, that's a good question, because if they purchase the 4 generators, there's going to be a question where they go as well. Right now, the trailer we have is loaded with 5 generators that we currently have, 4 county generators, 1 is municipal. To get
And
4 more.
let me just interrupt you. These towers should preferably be stored inside. I mean, am I correct? To
Preferably,
protect from
yeah.
the
I mean,
elements of the
certainly,
weather.
well, they're going to be on a trailer. So unless you have a large garage like Public Works or
So we
something,
can store it in the Public Works garage.
If there's
You-
room.
if there's room, I'm not well versed in what room there is over there at the Public Works garage.
I see.
They're fairly large.
Yeah, I know they are.
generators.
So that's why I was just
So to
wondering.
find space inside, they are made to be outside. They're like the large contractor
Yes,
generators,
right,
you know,
right.
with the pop-up lights and all that. So I know they stay outside for the most part when other people use them.
Mhm.
But certainly, as with anything, if you protect it, it's going to last longer.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
If the city pursues a purchase of a vehicle for Public Works, a Vector truck, I believe there's going to be a pole barn that's constructed
was
to
gonna
store
say,
that.
yeah.
Perhaps that could be used for some of this equipment.
Perhaps, I don't know how much space it's going to take up, but certainly we could look into it. Storing it is probably not going to be that big of an issue. I don't want to sit here and believe that point.
Yeah.
Not going
Mhm.
to be the end of the world there.
well, I mean, since we do have room in the capital, as you had mentioned, I think this, if there's a time to do this, this may be it. I mean, would that be your opinion, as CFO? I mean,
Yes, and one of the reasons is because we have a lot of long-term projects in this capital plan. And now we're putting in some shorter-term projects, so that gives us a longer maturity schedule for our bonds too. We don't want to go forward and just have all little projects in the next bond issue too. We like to see a mix.
and we're going to get,
You'll get
20 years out of
you'll
these
get 20
vehicles.
years out of these vehicles.
so
Well,
it
the
is,
bond
it
law
isn't, it
says
isn't
5,
kind of,
so-
We'll definitely make it
Anything
5
over that,
years.
it's gravy.
Okay.
I have to say, you know, I've been working for this county for 25 years. I've been involved with their emergency management there for 20-some years. I have the ICS, you know, training as well. And I know that these things are very important, so I do appreciate you coming here and explaining all this to us, because it's very important that we have this stuff, because I know we're behind the eight ball.
Thank you.
I know what happens, you know, it's the what if syndrome.
Right. We're like insurance. You don't care about it until you need it. And then when you need it, you want it yesterday.
So, excuse me, Dawn, if I understand you correctly, whether we get one car this year, another next year, or one light tower this year, another next year, that's really negligible.
It wouldn't matter because this is a capital bond
Right.
project we're looking at that's about $4 million.
So jump into those now, and you have it, and it's, probably more efficient.
Right, and for the operating costs, they were already factored into the budget, preliminary budget that I gave you.
right.
So, and now that we took out the crossing guards for the remainder of the year, the tax increase now is at 2.59 cents.
That includes 5,000 within there?
My question is there
It's
grants
not that
or
bad.
any type
80 seconds.
of federal money that we can apply for? I mean, you know, so this is a big impact. I know we're behind the 8 ball, but, you know, we have police vehicles that we're going to be looking at next year, the chief mentioned, and, you know, it's, you know, with all that's going on, is there federal money grants, state money grants? Anybody look into it?
I'm
Yeah,
always looking at emergency management grants, and right now, there's nothing available specifically for what we're looking for.
And we always write our bond ordinance that says that we can reimburse ourselves with any grant money. So if we get anything, and that's all because of tax rules and stuff.
okay.
But we always put that in there just in case something comes along. So just because you decide on this plan now, we put it in and we do the ordinance, and then we say, hey, there's a grant, we can always reimburse ourselves for that.
We have a good bond rating and would get a favorable interest rate at this time?
We do, yes.
I would move that we put it in the capital plan.
I'm in agreement with that.
Is there, are there any other objections to that? I mean, I know, as you said, I know, Frank, we always buy vehicles, but again, it's,
It's top shelf though.
Yeah,
You're talking command and stuff, the whole 9 yards like the county would have. We're gonna be on the same playing field they are.
If you were to look around the state, Atlantic County is probably the last when it comes to being prepared for things like this. I can tell you that pretty much every fire department command vehicle outside of Atlantic County is set up like this.
Oh, I understand that, but, you know, I think Vince Jones probably has a pretty good hold on things for, you know, with the big.
You may be surprised.
Hmm?
You may be surprised.
I don't know, it's just a heavy hit when everything's going on, what we got. And we're working for the state and the federal government here, and then generators and lights and everything else. I might see one new piece of equipment with the command center and the other one is the second backup. That's my opinion, so that's where I'm at with it.
is there,
Where you store all this stuff?
Well, most of everything there will be in the vehicle.
4 generators?
The 4 generators, yeah, my plan is to try to take the county issue generators and put them with Public Works. Because when we had Tropical Storm Isaias, they were the ones that deployed them and recovered them. So we may as well just leave them there. And then the newer generators can go back into the trailer.
Frank does bring up a very interesting point, and, like I say, do both vehicles actually go well, go over the top outfitted? He does bring up, I think, a very.
He does. The purpose of a deputy, first off, is to be able to do everything that the coordinator does in his absence. But primarily, the reason why I think he needs to have an identical vehicle is after a storm, like I said, we have 48 hours to get our preliminary damage assessment in. We can take one half of the town that he takes care of that, and I take care of the other half of town. And we basically become 2 separate entities doing the same thing.
So where are these vehicles kept when in need? You take them home?
We take them home, yes. Yeah, we have them available since we are potentially responding 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, I work at Atlantic Care, and that's something I'll mention to you now. I was just able to get my schedule changed, so I'm now working 4 10-hour days. Thursdays, I will be working dedicated to the city of Northfield for emergency management. But I do take the vehicle right now to work because I have authority from my director to leave work if there is a major disaster in the city.
I think overall, I think we agree to put it in. I mean, I know there's some, we're not overly excited about adding that much in, but I think it is a need unless anyone has some, again, some, I think the majority of us are on board with this or not. Please, can we take one straw poll or is there just any objections? Seeing none. Can you,
I'm basically for that.
I know you're again, I know you, where you are, sir. Yes. I mean, I see what you're saying. The last topic back to is in the police department. If, I guess we got those additional handouts, if we can, you have to take a minute to look at those.
And just to reiterate for the Zoom participants, the material that the council is now reviewing has been added to the agenda on the municipal website, and I did type instructions in the Zoom chat on where to find that.
Okay.
So the front page is status quo.
It looks that way because that has just one of each position. So I think the proposal was to add, let's see, 1 sergeant to lieutenant, and then 1 patrol to sergeant, and then add a patrol. Right. And eight administration and 12 patrol.
Well, there's a detective sergeant
And
too,
then,
so that would make it
and then
9,
the
right?
text, so that's, yes, that's 4. So it would be 9. And 11 non-supervisory. 9 below, 9 above, 9 sergeant and above, and 10, and 11 below. Is that right? 12, no, I'm sorry. Plus these guys.
14,
14, yeah.
9 and 14,
And then the
class 2s.
class 2 officers. That's a lot. That's a lot of supervising for. That makes, yeah. Is there any? Again, I know the chief had something he couldn't be here for, but
Mayor, maybe you can, is this per shift? A sergeant per shift? Is that how that's?
There is a command shift sergeant for each shift, a group of men there.
Right.
Right. And what I'm asking is, when I first took over as mayor, we did have 2 lieutenants. And at that time, President Travelline and I, we discussed, and we were able to put aside not remove it, but put aside the 2nd lieutenant. All right. Pursuant to that now, the administrative duties and responsibilities of the captain and lieutenant have increased significantly. I mean, and I'll just give you one little minor thing with the number of police gun permits that we now have to process every month. That's only just one thing that's added, and all the bureaucracy that's been added by the state. The other factor is this: is that, you know, my proposal is to add a lieutenant or promote an individual lieutenant to provide more administrative experience and background. And if you look at the one sheet, it shows the number of years that we have in our top administrations, leading from the chief down. You can see that they're pretty close towards retirement time. I mean, they may say longer, I don't know, but they are within that range. And my concern is that if we have a situation very similar to when Chief Newman was appointed, that had minimal amount of administrative responsibilities and duties and experience, we have a big chunk there that I'm going to have to make up. And I don't want whoever the mayor and the city council will be at that time, I don't want us to be in a situation where we only have one candidate. I'd like to give us some at least some versatility and some ability to look at, not that, as Councilwoman Madden said, maybe you can go outside, but I feel that having the administrative qualities and experience within the municipalities gives an applicant far more an ability as well as an advantage of knowing what Northfield is all about. So that's several of them. The other one is the police presence. I think we've tried to work for our police appearance or presence. We have bike patrol, we have the motorcycle brigade. These are just simple things that the public notice when they see more people out there on the streets who are available. So that is part of the explanation as to why I want to move a sergeant up to the second lieutenant, and as a result, have an opening for an officer at the beginning wages. I think personally myself, and I'm going record, I think if we have another officer added, I think this is it. I don't foresee us needing another officer to increase the numbers. I think this is it. We're back to what we started many years ago when we had the active positions and so forth. I am also saying that that even though council had granted permission to hire 3 SEOs, I think we can make the cut and just only have 2. As much as I would like to get another police vehicle, I'm not satisfied in talking to the chief that we can forego that expense in terms of capital. I realize, our explanation at Dawn gave capital, but just trying to cut some money here for the department itself. But that's basically, and you also, on one page, you see the number of assignments, collateral assignments, and this is only just a very, very, there's more, but I think this is highlights some of the things that we have with the captain and the lieutenant currently. Some of it, obviously, we don't know, or I can't explain in detail how much work is involved, but in talking to the chief and the captain, it is quite a bit of material or things that they have to do every day. So I'm open to any questions if council has. Yes, Barbara?
I do have a question about, I know you, I appreciate the insight, that you giving about past and future, but like I say, is there something that can be done, you say, we're anticipating maybe, future, retirement, like now would be the time that you establish mentorship programs or things, that,
Mentor positions, what do you mean by mentor?
something to prepare your, policemen
For more experience?
moving up.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but, once you start to deviate and pull a sergeant, for example, off of some of his or her administrative duties and transfer them into another sector, such as the lieutenant and captain, you start to diminish and dilute the situation, all right? Yeah, that's a good idea, but I can't afford, or the chief is explaining to me, we can't afford to put a sergeant or an officer and say, okay, you're going to do this from now on, all right? So that we can leave it. Now you're interfering with the sergeant's responsibilities as a patrol officer or officer in charge of the shift itself. And I understand that's a good idea, but
Yeah.
I think,
You're talking about cross-training.
Exactly.
yeah.
Early.
That's like taking over responsibility.
No, that's.
That's training people in
Yeah.
multiple
Well, and they get that routinely when they cover the partial shift or vacations or such.
One example where we've done kind of cross-training, so to speak, is traffic control. We had an officer, sergeant, who was in charge of traffic control for this municipality. We had to remove that person, or I should say not remove it, but we have the position, but we don't have the manpower because that sergeant is needed for the shift.
Correct. My other question is, between the school crossing guard and this,
Between what, I'm sorry?
is it something that can wait another year?
Why, okay, why would you want to wait another year?
Because we have a huge school crossing guard issue, and we have a big expense with the EMS, and and we also, we're talking about a 2.59 increase. This will help hopefully lower that. In other words, taxpayers just can't afford everything. It's just unsustainable to say, well, we can get cars and pay for school crossing guards and add police
Mhm.
officers. This is not the year to do it, not with COVID, not with this $149,000 hit with school crossing guards. And also, I know this is capital budget, but it still affects people's taxes. Is there some way that this can just be tabled for a year?
Well, with all due respect, I hear what you're saying, but I cannot foresee or know what's going to happen in the future, next year. Even though council would say, well, let's hold off for another year, things come up every year that we don't anticipate. And one example was this year with the crossing guard. We didn't know that. With the EMS, we didn't know that. What's going to happen, with all due respect, next year? Something else comes up. Am I going to be in a position that someone's going to say, well, you know, we didn't know this was going to happen? All right, let's put it off another year. You know, I've been on city council for many years. And from my experience, we've put off a lot of things and saying the following year, we're going to do the drainage, the paving, the purchase of vehicles within the public works and so forth. All right. And you heard also today with the emergency management. We've done that. All right. And it's come back, in my opinion, to haunt us. With the police vehicles, we've had vehicles that are over 100,000 miles. How did they get to that point? Because council, with all due respect, in their ultimate wisdom, said, let's hold off and not buy another vehicle. Now it hits us. Now, instead of one vehicle to replace, we got 3 vehicles to replace. So, you know, you could do that. You know, you could put a lot of things off the table.
I got a question for Dawn. Dawn, what is the, like, when we I guess, bond for all this stuff, and what is the tax implication of it, like, over, you know, that course of time? I mean,
Well,
for these extra things that
hard
we're
to
doing.
say. What we do is we ladder our debt, right?
Mhm.
So we do it 5 years. So we have an issue that retires and we replace it with new debt. So we keep that percentage of our tax rate this relatively
The same.
stable, right?
Right.
So our tax rate doesn't go like this.
Right,
when
so
we're
you're,
doing debt, right?
so you're paying more than you know.
Right, and so we try to keep that stable. That's why we try to plan this for like 5 years out. What's gonna happen? And we try and we stay under the $5 million mark because that's typically what we do.
Right.
And I included a summary of what our outstanding debt was and all that. But this council and, previous, they have an asset replacement plan. We've been doing a lot with your sewer. Now we're doing the slip lining, the pump stations. There's a schedule for vehicle maintenance and replacements, right? We've been bonding some police four-wheel drives. We've been leasing some, and they're in this. So as the lease for the 2 vehicles expires, we replace that with a new vehicle lease to replace them. And I work with the chief on that, and we do have a plan in place to do that.
Mhm.
That tries to keep things level, so we're not going,
Right, right. It's not going too high.
Right.
And
Page 6 has got a pretty good example of
what, I'm sorry?
that. Page 6 in your packet.
Okay.
On the 2, I'm sorry, Dave.
Erlen,
So if you, and this is not, if you were to, if you were to take out the new hire and the promotions, the tax increase would go from the 2.65 that I just said to 1.7.
So maybe the mayor can answer, is there a cost for promotional testing? I didn't think there was.
Yes, about $12,000.
Yeah, we're required to do that. It's a catch-22.
Erlen, the certified motorcycle officer,
Yes,
are they a patrolman?
yes.
They're in that's,
Yes.
they're in the patrolman.
We have,
setup.
I believe we have 2 individuals that are certified. We're trying to get another one, but the classes are, because of the COVID, have been put off.
Okay. So we wouldn't have a, management on the motorcycle. It would be a patrol.
Right. And also that deals also with the SEO as well as an officer for the bike patrol.
The public safety between fire and police is almost 2 million just in salary. I mean, 3 million just in salary and wage. It's the biggest part of our
Yeah.
operating budget.
Mhm.
Is, I mean, and what is it typical, what is 25 years of service typically when they're able to get full retirement?
Yes. Am I correct, Eric? 25 about? Oh, new guys are 30? Okay. The old guys.
Okay, so I mean, although we do have, as the chief mentioned, he's got enough time in, but looking at this list, we still have several,
You can look at your 3 top administrators
we still have 3
are
years.
close, and
we still
they
have a few
fall
years.
under the old time, 25 years. They're not obviously
Some of them are
new.
eligible for 20 though, so it's not-
They're eligible to retire, but they would, yeah.
they can go
No
50%
benefits.
with
25 for benefits.
But
Yeah.
they need their 25 years with the city or in the system for their health benefits.
For the health, yeah,
And for a certain year. Not everybody's good.
right.
So I have a question, and maybe for the mayor, I guess. It seems like, I understand all of the talk about building experience and grooming people, but basically what I'm hearing is that the major part of needing this is to have someone to do administrative work. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Is there no other way to reallocate what we have to complete administrative tasks? Like, that's one thing I guess I don't understand. Like, we have all officers and sergeants, detective sergeants. Is there no way to reallocate to get some of those, or to off-put some of those administrative tasks to other supervisory positions?
Yeah.
A full-time police secretary and another secretary that works 21 hours a week. Right, but that's what they have, basically 1.5.
Do those administrative tasks require a police officer?
Well, some of those administrative tasks obviously is confidential, and it would not be applicable to our secretaries. I can't answer the question about in terms of getting other people or within the department to do other job responsibilities based on their experience and based on their status of within the police department. I know that in talking to the chief, there are some duties that we cannot allow an officer or police officer to do, but there are some, and we have done that. So I'm not prepared to say that, for example, a certain task that they mentioned here with the lieutenant, the current lieutenant and captain does, can be cross-trained to someone at this time. That's something that we would have to ask the chief.
So there's no way of putting another lieutenant on without creating a short patrol shift, like one of the 4 patrol shifts.
Well, that's the whole idea. I mean, if we move one up, then we would have an open there for a promotion for a sergeant.
And I think we've had this, I mean, this lieutenant's position's been open since before I was on council last time.
Yes, that is correct.
So I realize it's been requested many times, and I'm guessing the discussions goes the same way.
Well,
I think we're in the
it has
same-
gone that way, Council President, but I've also, in my discussion with the chief, said, let's hold off because there were other priorities that I thought that
Right.
we needed to get first.
Go ahead.
I don't know, this is a small town. I meant to look it up, but I think population is certainly 1,000. It's not a very small size, a couple of square miles, a few square miles. I just don't think that this is, and also when you do all these, some of these numbers, when you do all these promotions and add people, add another patrol officer, this is a long-term effect on our budget. It's not, and this, I looked at this, and actually, the police department just awarded a very, I think, generous contract not too long ago. What is it, about 16%, almost 4% a year.
What?
And, although that's a good thing, that carries a burden on the city. And these numbers are, I think for a small town, quite generous, these salary numbers. And I just think at this time, this city can't handle it. He can't take on all these tax additions. We don't know what the school increase in the school taxes are gonna be, but last year they were quite high. We have no control over that. All we can control is our burden to the taxpayers. And I think we have to really watch the bottom line. That's why I'm here, actually. And I cannot see this at this time.
Well, I think your point about, the salaries and so forth, but please keep in mind that these numbers are percentages that whether it be the police, the fire, any of our employees is negotiable. We did, I didn't arbitrarily for the police department say, okay, you're going to get X amount of money. This was presented before city council. It was negotiated. City council had every opportunity, with all due respect, to say, we don't want it. We're going to use the rationale, well, we're a small town and we can't afford it and the taxpayers and so forth. And I understand that. I understand that argument. But you can't say that just because they have, quote, generous salaries, that it's their fault. We negotiate. It's a two-way street, all right? It's a two-way street.
I don't think she's saying it's their fault, and she's just pointing out, I think she's just pointing out where we are.
Right.
It's.
My question, Mr. Mayor, would be, I heard the chief outline two basic concerns. One was depth of his bench, that he needed to train experience for retirements that are forthcoming. And the other is overburdened administration on the lieutenant that's currently there. It would seem to me that if you did bring in an administrative assistant of some kind to handle whatever can be handled, like payroll certainly is on here, I see. I mean, there must be things that the lieutenant's doing that aren't confidential, that could be handled by the administrative assistant, that would be for a lower salary, wouldn't have that pension and healthcare burden that these promotions, of course, you're not just paying the promotion, you're paying that pension forever and that healthcare benefit forever.
Oh, I understand completely that. And unfortunately, the chief's not here to answer some of your questions, and I'm not prepared either.
Well,
I am just looking at the picture right now and looking down the road 4 or 5 years from now.
Well, I think that's smart. But I am wondering if more administrative help would relieve some of those concerns, also free up some of his staff for cross-training, which is already being done apparently when they're on vacation, et cetera, so that we would have depth to the bench as a vacancy may develop, and still hold off on some of these direct costs and future costs this year, which is a particularly tight budget year. And I agree with that. The school's going to come up with, they never seem to have these same conversations. I would like that posed to the chief. Is there an administrative assistant a possibility?
And since we do have one more workshop meeting, I would say that at this point, I don't see anything that's really compelling enough to do these. And I realize, and no fault of the chief, I know he had something he couldn't be here for, so obviously I don't want to say anything into that, but again, from for administration to take this much of a burden on us, and there's never a good year to do it, but this is a particularly bad year. So I would, at least for right now, I would say we need to take this out to see where we are. And you had said the number would be around 1.7 cents. And
Right, 1.5, if we take out the promotional. And if I put, say, some additional money in for an administrative assistant to bring her full-time, just throwing in the number.
Just to give- yeah, to give
Idea, 2 cents.
okay.
And we could probably get that down to 1.5 without trying real hard.
And avoid those legacy.
And
Right.
absolutely, the chief, he has something he can propose. We have another workshop meeting, and if the need's there, then the need is there. But at this point, and I'm very grateful that he was able to provide this documentation. This certainly helps us be able to review it, and that'll give us time as council to review these numbers as well. And we can all have a good discussion on that, and we can finalize things at the next workshop. Is there anyone that has anything to add to that, or any more input?
I agree with you. It should be explored for other alternatives, like you say, especially if the big issue is administrative paperwork. then why should a lieutenant be signed on a paperwork? I'm sure there are other avenues that can be explored.
Yeah, and as a count, as in my point of view would be, if we're going to put this kind of investment into the staff, I would like to see something this seems like something not as beneficial to the whole rank and file. This seems more toward administrative, toward the top. And if I were to be able to invest that much, I'd like to invest it in something that's going to benefit all the men and women, not just a few. So I want more bang for the buck, if you will. So, I mean, I'd like to see that, something that would help all the morale and help all the staff if we were going to do something of that nature. So that's just where I'm coming from. So we can talk about that at the next meeting, whether we can, again, if you get whatever new proposal you might have or spin on this, we might have to fill the staff.
This is helpful, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Dawn, is there anything else that you need us to?
No, those were the answers that we were looking at. So I took out the promotions, the patrolman, funded for like a assistant and benefits, and that, now we're at 2 cents.
Okay.
Anything else? And we could, if you,
We can steal from the surplus, right?
I was just gonna say, if you want to, because remember
We're
we had,
9.3% tax, right?
because we had a large tax increase, tax collection increase, right? So you can parse that back out.
That's also incorporating 145,000 for courts, correct?
That is fully funding our court at this point.
I can reduce it off the penny right there.
But it's also funding the increase for the EMS.
Right.
So those are
So we
still
have
two
those-
issues that are
those two
unresolved.
issues that are kind of outstanding that could swing it to the positive or whatever.
I get carried away.
Can't get worse. It can only go
It
down.
could get worse. So I'm gonna leave it at this 2 cents. We'll just revisit this again. Maybe we'll have more information at the next meeting. Is
At the
that what
next
you
meeting,
wanna do?
we have to tie it up. I mean, it's,
But just so we're clear, if we borrow another 86,000 from the surplus, we reduce it a penny? Is that
Well,
correct?
Um,
I'm sure I got that number right.
It's a rule of thumb, but it interacts with the reserve fund collected taxes, so let me see what I can do for you here. Because we're reducing the amount, we're collecting from the taxpayers, so that reduces your uncollected reserve fund collected taxes, so kind of like helps on both ends. So if we put another 60,000, at 1.3 cents. Another 50,000 to
Take
1.4.
50 from the surplus.
Take another 55 from the surplus, put you at like 1.3.
And they were still strong for a bond rate.
Strong, and it makes our percentage of our operating income at 8.9. And we like to be between 5 and 10, more towards that top number during a bond year.
what percentage of the surplus usage is that?
So that would be using 52% of our surplus. We have 1.2 million though going into next year. And this year and for 2000, going into 2002, we only had 1 million. So we're
Okay.
up about, 280,000,
Okay.
Now,
even if we took that much.
If we budget for the courts and then we get the $80,000 deal or we get a reduction in EMS, does that go to next year's surplus? If we budget it in now?
It will go to 2023
22,
surplus
yeah.
because, but, well, you know what? If we knew about the courts, we'd cancel it. So yes, it could potentially go in for 2022. There's a mechanism where we can cancel it out. But,
Well, you got the added assessment from Crescent, and you got the Crescent Hill and the sewer fees that are being collected, connection fees,
yeah, we had the 55, 65 sewer connection fees this this year.
Right, that we don't,
Yeah.
that,
Which
that we,
helped offset our decline in revenue in the courts and the UCC. So that's why we ended the year up a little bit.
Well,
And-
what was the line, the O&E line for construction, 30,000, what's there?
Because we have that third party inspector now, and for the Crescent Avenue project, so we had to pay him a lot, so we left that in this year, and we didn't do that, we didn't use the service, so we transferred money out and put it elsewhere, so that's a comparison between what ended up being the actual, not what was budgeted last year. We budgeted 57, but we transferred 30,000 out for the crossing guards actually, and ended 27.5 in O&E for instruction. And this year we brought it back up to 57.5 because we're going to need that money. Yeah, an inspector.
okay. Any other discussion, council? Okay, then at this time, I'd like to open the public session. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, I'd ask you to limit your time to 5 minutes. Anyone here? No? Okay,
Hang on just a second.
yes, and we'll check Zoom and see if there's any Zoom participation.
Somebody's got their hand up, but I can't tell if they want to type or call. Someone named Carolyn's iPhone, you have your hand up. You have been unmuted. Is there a comment you'd like to make?
Yeah,
Carolyn
Mary,
Bucci, 530 Ridgewood Drive. She said there has been some talk that.
Can
the
you hear me?
parents are- Oh, you talking, Carolyn?
okay, I'd rather talk. I didn't know I could
All right,
talk.
hold on. Let me turn the speakers up just a second.
Okay. Oh. You still there? Can you hear me? What did I do? I think I just disconnected myself.
No, you're there.
We hear you.
Go ahead. Carolyn? Oh, she's gone. Can we give her a moment to
She did
reconnect?
Yeah,
disconnect
yeah, let her
herself.
reconnect.
While we're waiting, I have refreshments in the office, so please, after the meeting, help yourself.
Thank you very much.
Yep, yep.
Okay. Carolyn, can you hear me?
Sorry about that. I should be a pro at this. I use this all the time. I just wanted to let you know that apparently this is just an aside with regards to the crossing guards and your concern about that. Apparently Linwood is presenting or has presented a petition to their school board to get the kids back to school full time. And it's my understanding that Northfield is starting to circulate that type of petition as well. So that might be a good thing just to know that, you know, to take some of the pressure off with regards to the additional expenses and feeling bad about the crossing guard situation. So that's really all I had.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, Mrs. Bucci is actually the only one in the Zoom chat right now. So if Mrs. Bucci has no other comments to make, I believe that would be it.
That's
Okay,
it for me. Thank you.
thank you, Carolyn. Okay, seeing no one else wishing from the public wishing to speak, I'll close the public session. Meeting notices. City Council next meeting is February 6th, 6 PM work session with the regular meeting immediately following. What did I say? I said 6th. I apologize. I can't blame it on the mask. It was 16th, February 16th, and the next budget workshop is February 25th at 3 PM. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Yeah. Well,
Hi. All right, so I think I understand what happened. We started with the 3.8.
Tim, come in. All right. Lead.